So I have been studying a lot about the subconscious mind in this new program that I'm in, that I've been working to be certified on, like hypnosis, emotional freedom techniques, things like that. Anyways, today I was just, laying down, tapping out some of my feelings. I have an upcoming intensive this weekend. And so I just was just laying out some of my thoughts, some of my feelings. And I ended up reading this book by Carol Dweck, and I can't remember the name of it. But I picked up this book because I was just laying on my couch, and I picked it up because it was on my coffee table. And on there, she was talking about sometimes we tell ourselves stories in our brain, and they're old stories from things that happened to us when we're little that we don't even realize have bothered us, but have manifested so deeply in our thoughts and it impacted our lives. So I started to think, I'm like, man, what is my earliest trigger with like not feeling good enough? Or what is my earliest trigger of being like super embarrassed or scared? So as I was sitting there thinking about it, I remembered this time when I was in third grade. I was in Mrs. Hughes' class, and it was like, she was like my favorite teacher. She was my first Black teacher, and I loved her. Anyways, we had to do a report about our favorite celebrity, and I was little, and so I was in third grade, and I didn't know anything about like celebrities. My mom wasn't really into music. She only listened to two artists. She listened to Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. So I was like, all right, well, I'll choose Whitney Houston because she was like familiar. That's what I would hear around my house. So I had to dress up as her and talk about like why I idolized her. I'm not really sure I quite idolized her. She just seemed to be like the only celebrity that I knew of. So I decided that I was going to do the report on her. So my mom had given me like this really fancy dress, and she let me dress up in it. But I honestly, I'm gonna be very transparent, like we were dirt poor. So while the dress was really nice, everything else around it was like pretty rough. I had this like ugly green turtleneck that was like my older boy cousin's turtleneck because we couldn't really afford a lot. And I had these Nickelodeon light up shoes. So anyways, I go to class and I'm ready to make this report, and these two boys make fun of me so bad as I'm standing in front of the class, pointing at me, singing the Nickelodeon song, Nick, Nick, Nickelodeon. And I remember like going home and crying because I felt like my mom had lied to me. I remember her putting the dress on me earlier and being like, I don't really like this turtleneck, but the dress was too big and like hanging off me. So of course she didn't want it hanging off me. She needed something on. But so she like gassed me up like, oh, you look beautiful. You look fine. And all of these things. And so I went home and I was so angry with her. Like, you told me I looked beautiful and I got teased so bad at class. And I just felt so like disheartened by her. I'm like, man, you lied to me and I got teased. Anyways, I didn't realize at that moment, but I had made like an internal vow to myself where I was like, I'll never stand in front of an audience again. Like, I don't want people pointing at me and laughing at me or judging my shoes. I don't want to fall. I don't want to look like I don't match. I don't want to look like all of these things. I had internalized that. And it's so funny because, they say the fear of public speaking is like the number one fear in the world next to dying. So people are more scared of standing on a stage in front of people than dying. And I was one of those people where I struggled. Even later in life, I took like a course about public speaking. And the first time they asked me to public speak, because in order to break free of it, you actually have to do it, I dropped it. And I was like, I'm not about to do that. Did the exact same thing in Toastmasters, where I was like, you're not about to put me in front of people. Anyways, thinking of all of that coming together, I'm like, man, how much have I really been impacted by my fear of public speaking? Like, it has caused me so many problems. I remember like 3 years ago, my pastor asking me to read the announcements in church. And I was like, I can't do it. And I agreed to do it because I felt bad to tell my pastor no. But I would get like deathly ill. I'm talking about like, I didn't even remember what the word was for the day because I'd be so sick focusing on the fact that I was getting ready to have to speak. And all I was doing was reading a list of announcements. But I was so scared. Anyways, as I was sitting here reading this book and like thinking about it, it made me start to wonder like how many stories we've told ourselves from childhood. Because even me listening to myself tell this story, it sounds so petty. It sounds like, so like, okay, so what? Get over it. But it was so insightful at the same time because there's so many stories that we tell ourselves as children where it prevents us from being able to progress. It prevents us from being able to move forward. And so we have to break free of that. We cannot let what happened to us to be so deep rooted that we're preventing what we're called to do. I know one thing. I definitely have the gift of gab. You put me in front of some people that I'm comfortable with, I will talk. Give me a subject to talk about that I'm comfortable with, I will talk. But public speaking was something I ran from because I had internalized that if I spoke, I wasn't going to be good enough. I wasn't going to be paid attention to. And all that was going to happen was I was going to be teased. So when you think about your own experiences, like, what are your thoughts about what has happened to you in the past, and how do they impact what it is that you want to accomplish today? Being honest with yourself and just reflecting like I just did in this moment. Ask yourself, like, what is your earliest experience with fear? What is your earliest experience with stepping out on fear? What is your earliest experience with making a big decision? What is your earliest experience with getting a result that you didn't like? What is your earliest experience with embarrassment? Ask yourself these questions, and I bet when you think about these answers, you'll realize that they happened early in childhood, but they impacted you probably still to this very moment. The cool thing, though, is like it doesn't have to impact you forever. One thing that I have really been loving is hypnosis, right? Hypnotherapy, because from the ages of 0 to 7, we're essentially in hypnosis. We're constantly taking everything in. We're accepting it as our reality. We're accepting that as fact, and it's creating our own internal and external world based on the experiences we have with our school, with our friends, with our family, things like that. So when you become an adult, your world reflects those experiences that you've had from the ages of 0 to 7. But the good thing is hope is not lost. Like, just because you've had certain experiences between those ages and you were in a state of hypnosis and really extensive learning, that doesn't mean all hope is lost. You can learn new things again. Like, you can recreate what you want to create. You can uproot those things that aren't working for you. And that's why hypnotherapy is so powerful, because hypnotherapy allows you to remove those stuck places that you're at, those limiting beliefs, those negative beliefs, those barriers that you have, mental barriers that you have, to allow you to recreate and really design a thought pattern that aligns with what you want, and in turn, design a life that you deserve and desire. So if you're tired of living with depression or anxiety or procrastination or lack of confidence or insecurities or any stuck place that you have really adopted as the only hope for you or your only reality, DM me ASAP, because I am doing hypnosis sessions at an extremely awesome rate, at a discounted rate currently, because I want you to see that the world is so much bigger. There's so many more opportunities and things available for you if you get out of your own way. And that first begins up here. Once you change your thoughts, you ultimately change your life. So sign up using the Calendly link below, where you can get a totally free clarity call with me, where we can talk about where you're stuck and how I can support you moving forward. This is a life-changing opportunity that you don't want to miss. So make sure you use the link below, and I look forward to connecting with you very soon.